Stop everything, because what just unfolded in Cleveland wasn't a sideline disagreement. It was a full-blown eruption that sent shockwaves through the entire organization. And the moment those cameras caught Jeudy exploding on rookie quarterback Shedeur Sanders, the temperature inside the Browns building skyrocketed. This wasn't a heated conversation or a moment of frustration. This was a $52 million wide receiver publicly challenging the quarterback that owner Jimmy Haslam has defended more than once. And insiders say Haslam was livid watching it unfold in real time. It all went down during the fourth quarter against the 49ers. Sanders was on the bench, doing exactly what a professional quarterback is supposed to do, studying plays, breaking down coverages, and talking through adjustments with his linemen. Calm, focused, composed. And then Jeudy stormed in. Cameras captured him clapping aggressively in Shedeur's face, leaning over him, invading his space and repeating "that's wrong" like he was lecturing a rookie who owed him something. It was uncomfortable, disrespectful, and completely out of pocket. The moment was so tense that veteran center Ethan Posick had to physically step in and break it up. Think about that. In the middle of a game, a lineman felt the need to play mediator because a wideout couldn't control his emotions. That's not competitiveness, that's chaos. And here's what makes it nuclear. Jeudy hasn't been producing. Not close. His drops, his mistakes, his lack of accountability. It all paints a picture that makes this sideline blow-up look even worse. And when the owner who publicly backs Shedeur sees his hand-picked quarterback being disrespected on national TV, that's when everything changes. Because this wasn't just a moment. It was the spark that lit a fire inside Cleveland, one that isn't going out quietly. The moment the footage hit the broadcast, everyone watching at home felt the same thing. A sharp jolt of, wait, what is Jeudy doing? Because the sideline scene between Jeudy and Shedeur Sanders wasn't subtle, wasn't private, and definitely wasn't something the Browns could brush off as simple frustration. It was loud, aggressive, and caught in crystal clear HD for the entire country to see. The Browns were trailing the 49ers. Tensions were already high. And Shedeur, just 2 starts into his NFL career, was doing exactly what coaches expect from a developing quarterback. He was on the bench, tablet in hand, calmly going over the previous series with his linemen. No yelling, no finger pointing, no panic. Just a rookie trying to grow in real time. And then Jeudy arrived like a storm rolling in from nowhere. He walked straight toward Shedeur with an attitude you could spot from the upper deck. He started clapping right in the rookie's face. Not the encouraging kind, but the aggressive, listen to me kind. He leaned over him, stood in his space, and started repeating, "That's wrong," like a frustrated coach instead of a wide receiver who had barely contributed all game. You could practically feel the discomfort through the screen. This wasn't leadership. This wasn't constructive. It was a veteran showing up a rookie in front of millions. And the wildest part, it got so heated that Ethan Posick, a starting center with zero interest in drama, stepped in and physically moved between them. When an offensive lineman feels the need to break up your tantrum, you're not fired up. You're out of line. What made the clip go viral wasn't just the confrontation itself. It was the optics. A high-paid receiver barking at a rookie quarterback who was doing everything right. A player with production issues attacking the guy responsible for getting him the ball. And a team already done, fighting for stability now, dealing with a sideline eruption that screamed dysfunction. The clip spread everywhere. Social media, national broadcasts, team group chats. And it instantly raised one question that Cleveland couldn't avoid. If this is how Jeudy handles adversity, what's really boiling under the surface? And more importantly, why did he choose this moment and this quarterback to blow up on? What makes Jeudy's sideline explosion even more baffling is what the numbers actually say. Because if anyone on the Browns offense should be pointing fingers, It's certainly not the receiver leading the league in drops. Jeudy didn't walk into that confrontation as a dominating veteran demanding higher standards. He walked into it as a player whose own performance has been holding the offense back. Let's start with the basics. In Shedeur Sanders' first 2 career starts, Jeudy caught just 4 passes. 4 on 7 targets. That's barely over 50%, a rate no top receiver should ever accept from themselves. But the real issue is what happened on the passes Jeudy did touch. 2 drops in 2 games, a fumble the week before, and a glaring lack of awareness on plays where he simply didn't finish the route or adjust to the ball. These aren't nitpicks. These are game-changing mistakes, the kind that kill drives, ruin momentum, and place even more pressure on a rookie quarterback fighting through the hardest adjustment of his career. And here's where the hypocrisy becomes unavoidable. Before Shedeur stepped in, Jeudy spent 10 games catching passes from Dillon Gabriel and Joe Flacco. His production? Still mediocre. 28 catches, 8 drops. One player shouldn't have to face the numbers to see the pattern, but the math does not lie. This isn't a Shedeur problem. This is a Jerry Jeudy problem. So why didn't we ever see Jeudy clapping in Gabriel's face? Why wasn't he towering over Flacco after a missed throw? Why did this kind of outburst only surface when the quarterback was a rookie trying to earn his footing? That's the question the Browns front office noticed immediately. Because there's a world of difference between holding teammates accountable and targeting the new guy because you think he won't push back. And when the cameras caught Jeudy snapping at Shedeur instead of owning his own mistakes, it sent a very clear message to everyone watching, including the people who sign his checks. The numbers prove Jeudy hasn't been carrying the offense, yet he acted like he was the one being let down. And that disconnect is exactly why Cleveland is treating this incident as more than just frustration. They're treating it as a red flag. And unfortunately for Jeudy, the red flags were about to multiply. If the Browns thought Jerry Jeudy's sideline eruption was a one-off moment of frustration, all they had to do was look backward to realize this wasn't new behavior. It was part of a pattern that has followed him since early in his career. And the most infamous example came long before he ever put on a Browns uniform. Several years ago, Hall of Famer Steve Smith Sr. mentioned Jeudy on his Cut to It podcast while discussing players who hadn't lived up to expectations. Smith used a term that stung: JAG. Just a guy. Not elite, not game-changing, just average. Harsh? Sure. But Smith, a receiver who built a career on fire and accountability, has earned the right to evaluate talent. And to his credit, Smith later tried to clear the air. When he saw Jeudy face-to-face, he approached him respectfully, apologized for the comment, and admitted he may have gone too far. That's maturity. That's ownership. That's what veterans do when criticism crosses a line. Jeudy's response? He cursed Steve Smith out, repeatedly, loudly, publicly. Not only did he reject the apology, he doubled down with insults toward a Hall of Famer who simply tried to take responsibility for his words. Smith walked away from that exchange and went on national TV saying exactly what teams had been whispering. Jeudy wasn't mentally equipped to handle criticism, that he struggled with accountability, that he bristled at feedback instead of learning from it. Fast forward to Cleveland, and the pattern looks eerily similar. When Jeudy doesn't get the ball, he gestures, he sighs, he shakes his head on camera. When his own mistakes pile up, the drops, the fumbles, the miscommunication, the blame doesn't point inward, it points outward. And that's exactly why his blow-up at Shedeur Sanders didn't surprise insiders, because this wasn't a frustrated player snapping in the heat of the moment. This was consistent behavior resurfacing under pressure. The Browns saw a receiver with a history of lashing out. Now lashing out again, this time at a rookie quarterback trying to find his footing. And the deeper the team dug into Jeudy's past, the clearer it became. This wasn't an isolated outburst. It was a warning sign, one Cleveland could no longer afford to ignore. To really understand why Jerry Jeudy snapped the way he did, You have to go back to one specific moment early in the 49ers game. A play that should have been a highlight, a confidence builder. Maybe even a turning point for the Browns offense. Instead, it became the seed of frustration that eventually exploded on the sideline. It happened in the first quarter. Cleveland dialed up a deep shot for Jeudy, the exact kind of opportunity he's been begging for. Shedeur Sanders dropped back, read the coverage, and let it fly. The ball sailed downfield with a real chance to hit Jeudy in stride. He had a step on the defender. The window was there, and for a moment, it looked like the rookie and the veteran were finally going to connect on the kind of play that changes momentum. But then came the part nobody expected. Instead of accelerating through the route, Jeudy slowed up, just slightly, but enough to throw off the timing. The ball ended up just out of reach. On film, analysts pointed out that if Jeudy had kept running full speed, he likely catches that throw without breaking stride. It wasn't a bad decision. It wasn't a reckless pass. It was a timing play that required both sides to execute. Shedeur took accountability immediately after the game. He blamed the wind, blamed the trajectory, blamed the throw. He said he needed to keep shooting and stay on himself. That's what leaders do. They own their part. But Jeudy? No acknowledgement. No shared responsibility. Just visible frustration and body language that screamed, "This isn't my fault." And that's when the resentment began to simmer. Because instead of recognizing his own route adjustment, Jeudy treated the mislie by the rookie quarterback. Instead of seeing it as a trust-building opportunity, he internalized it as another moment he wasn't getting what he wanted. And as the game unfolded, every small misfire, every mistimed route, every stalled drive piled on top of that early play. By the time the fourth quarter arrived, the frustration that started with that deep shot had grown into something much bigger. And the moment Jeudy saw another incompletion come his way, he didn't just lose his cool. He unleashed all of it directly onto Shedeur, setting the stage for the explosion the whole world saw. If there's one person in Cleveland you absolutely cannot embarrass, it's the owner. And unfortunately for Jeudy, the person he disrespected on that sideline wasn't just Shedeur Sanders. It was Jimmy Haslam's decision, Jimmy Haslam's vision, and Jimmy Haslam's publicly defended quarterback. And insiders say the owner's reaction wasn't mild, measured, or patient. It was furious. Haslam didn't just watch the confrontation like another fan. He watched it as the man who had gone out of his way to defend Shedeur from the moment the pick was questioned. When analysts accused the Browns of forcing the selection, Haslam shut it down. When critics wondered why Shedeur wasn't playing sooner, Haslam backed the process and reaffirmed their belief in the rookie. He's been the one voice in the organization consistently saying, "This kid is serious. This kid is the future." So imagine how that same owner felt watching a $52 million receiver, a player who hasn't lived up to expectations, clap in the face of the quarterback he personally vouched for. Not annoyed, not disappointed, livid. Sources say that as soon as the game ended, Haslam requested immediate conversations with GM Andrew Berry and head coach Kevin Stefanski. Not later in the week, not during film review, right after the game. He wanted answers. Why did Jeudy feel comfortable attacking Shedeur publicly? Why wasn't the staff preventing this kind of meltdown? What message was this sending to the locker room? And most importantly, how was this behavior acceptable in a franchise fighting to rebuild its culture? Haslam reportedly made one thing unmistakably clear. This cannot happen again. Not with his quarterback. Not in his organization. The owner wasn't just angry about the optics. He was angry about the disrespect. Disrespect toward a young quarterback doing everything right, toward a culture Cleveland is trying to build, and toward the trust Haslam placed in the roster. And inside the building, that message echoed loudly. Because when the owner feels betrayed by a player, that player's future becomes very, very uncertain. And for Jeudy, the consequences of that moment were only beginning to unfold. What truly flipped this situation from a sideline blow-up to a full-blown organizational crisis wasn't just Jerry Jeudy's behavior. It was the stark contrast between how he handled adversity and how Shedeur Sanders responded to the very same moment. Because while Jeudy let frustration boil over into a public spectacle, Shedeur chose a completely different path. And inside the Browns building, that difference has become impossible to ignore. After being confronted, disrespected, and humiliated on national television, Shedeur had every reason to bite back. He could have called out Jeudy for the drops. He could have mentioned the fumble. He could have said flat out, he needs to do his job. But instead, the rookie showed the kind of poise teams hope to see from a 10-year veteran. When reporters pushed him, and they absolutely tried, Shedeur didn't take the bait. He didn't criticize Jeudy or the play calling. He didn't point fingers. He talked about chemistry, timing, and trust. He talked about needing more reps with the starters. He talked about how this offense was still growing and how everyone had to get on the same page. Not once did he mention the disrespect. Not once did he hint at resentment. He stayed calm, controlled, and measured. That maturity mattered a lot. Because while Shedeur used the moment to strengthen the locker room, Jeudy used it to fracture it. Players notice things like that. Coaches notice, and owners, they definitely notice. When adversity hit, one player became a stabilizer. The other became a source of chaos. And then came the quote that really made people in the building sit up. Shedeur said he needed time on task. That trust only develops when everybody sees the field through the same lens. Without naming names, he pointed out receivers not being where they should be, a direct reflection of poor execution. Yet even then, he shielded Jeudy from blame. That contrast is shaping the Browns' future more than any stat sheet ever could. One player is proving he's built for leadership. The other is proving he's built for excuses. And as this season moves forward, Cleveland has to decide which kind of energy they want defining their culture. Because one builds a franchise and the other tears it apart. As the dust settled and the sideline footage kept circulating, one question started echoing through Cleveland. Not just among fans, but inside the building as well. Is Jerry Jeudy running out of time with the Browns? And the more you look at the situation, the harder it becomes to imagine a long future for him in Cleveland. Because this isn't simply about one confrontation. It's about everything surrounding it. The performance, the attitude, the body language, the lack of accountability, and now the very public disrespect toward the quarterback the Browns are trying to build around. Put all that together, and suddenly, the $52 million contract looks less like an investment and more like a burden. People close to the organization have already started whispering the possibility that the Browns will explore moving on from Jeudy in the offseason. Not because of one emotional outburst, but because that outburst forced everyone to take a closer look at what he's actually bringing to the table. Drops piling up, production dipping, leadership questions growing louder. And now, a sideline meltdown that made national headlines and put the entire franchise under a spotlight they didn't need. Meanwhile, Shedeur Sanders, the rookie Jeudy lashed out at, is quietly earning more respect by the week. He's staying composed, controlling what he can, taking responsibility, and showing signs of becoming someone the Browns could legitimately build around. That's exactly the kind of quarterback ownership wants veterans to support, not attack. And here's the uncomfortable truth. The more Shedeur grows, the smaller Jeudy's margin for error becomes. Cleveland doesn't want drama. They don't want distractions. They don't want a veteran who melts down on camera while putting up some of the least efficient numbers in the league. They want teammates who elevate the quarterback, not tear him down. So now the question becomes, can Jeudy hit the reset button? Can he rebuild trust? Can he show professionalism and production when the Browns need it most? Because if he can't, the Browns may decide his time in Cleveland has already run out. And the next decision coming from the front office could reshape the entire direction of this roster. When you step back and look at everything that's unfolded, it becomes painfully clear that this was never just a sideline argument. It was a moment that exposed exactly where the Browns are as a franchise and where they're heading. One player crumbled under pressure, lashed out, and created chaos. Another absorbed the hit, stayed composed, and showed the kind of maturity teams spend years searching for. And in Cleveland, where stability has always felt elusive, that contrast means everything. Jeudy didn't just confront a teammate. He confronted the organization's future without even realizing it. Every drop, every fumble, every frustrated gesture, it all built to a boiling point, and his outburst became the spark that forced Cleveland to reevaluate what they value and who they want leading their culture. Because talent without accountability isn't leadership. Production without professionalism isn't enough. And no franchise trying to climb out of decades of inconsistency can afford a veteran who brings more chaos than confidence. Meanwhile, Shedeur Sanders walked through the fire with a calmness that caught the attention of the entire building. He didn't respond with emotion. He didn't escalate the situation. He didn't use the moment to shift blame or deflect responsibility. Instead, he talked about trust, growth, timing, and chemistry. Words you expect from a polished starter, not a rookie still adjusting to NFL speed. And that's exactly why so many inside the organization believe he's worth investing in. Now the Browns are staring at a choice: double down on the culture they're trying to build, or keep carrying the weight of a veteran whose attitude could pull them backward. Reports suggest changes are coming. Rumors hint at off-season decisions that could send a clear message about what Cleveland stands for. Because at the end of the day, this is bigger than one receiver or one quarterback. It's about identity. It's about the kind of team the Browns want to be. It's about choosing players who elevate the franchise, not those who drag it into controversy. And right now, one thing feels certain. If Cleveland truly believes in Shedeur Sanders, Jeudy's time with the Browns may already be ticking down. The next few months won't just shape the roster. They'll shape the future of the entire organization.